the thing has happened.
The thing's happened.
The thing's happened.
We're going.
We're going. We're here. We're live. Everything is great. Are you? How are we gonna do this 2 at once thing?
A miracle of 2 at once.
A
Well,
miracle
we need a countdown, right? Surely.
On 3 or after 3?
On 3.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and on
Okay.
3 we do it. 2 at once. Miracle.
Are you ready?
So 1,
2,
2, 3.
Rip it and rip it.
I was way fast.
That's
was my
okay.
best.
That's fine. I don't know how well mine came through, but we did it. It was the miracle of 2 at once. No one has ever seen anything like this before.
This is the only time ever.
This is the only time ever. We'll never do it again. This is it.
This is the content you crave.
Who wouldn't want the miracle of 2 at once? Hi Fruity, we're here. We're live. We're gonna finish The Walking Dead today. Ah!
Oh yeah, the whole thing.
The whole thing, all of it. It's the final episode of the final season.
The last zombie.
The very no more zombies ever again after this. This is it. Thank you for the contribution to the Gummy Hunt. Also, Easy Go Ride, hello, welcome. I'm glad things are going normally. It ended badly yesterday, didn't it? It went real bad yesterday.
Yeah,
Hi, Akos. And we don't know the state of, like, anyone at this point.
Anyone who's not definitely dead, we don't know how they are right now, 'cause it went a bit. There was a bit of an explosion.
I think the technical term is tits up.
Yeah.
The shit kind of hit the fan, which was incredibly unfortunate. But
Yeah.
Which was so unfortunate. We thought we were doing so dang well, which I mean, I guess we kind of were, but that doesn't last long ever.
Cole Lewis is tongue out.
Yeah. It wasn't great. Everything was bad. That's the summary. It was all bad. Yeah.
I feel bad because it's probably because of our choices that Lewis who got kidnapped, but also would something horrible have happened to Violet if we hadn't have?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. She would have been the one.
Finger.
Yeah, she'd have been the one without a tongue.
Yeah.
And then Lewis would have lost his finger. But it's okay for Violet to lose a finger because now we're twins.
Yeah. We can both only count to 9.
You can count to 10 on a stump. It's fine.
You can count to 9.5.
It's not a full finger. It doesn't count. Oh my god. Alright. Well, I'm gonna launch this game. I'm gonna make this happen. Oh god, hello game. You're incredibly bright. But I am scared. At this point, I am concerned for how this dang game is gonna end. I'm worried about Chunky Baby.
You said last time, what if it reprises the season 1 ending?
But what if it does? what are we gonna do? I don't know
I have
if I
a
can
question,
handle it.
but also please don't.
Yeah, I mean, don't do it. Don't do that. But also, we have to take into consideration that it might happen, and I hope it doesn't. Making sure that the sound is all fine and everything. I got water. I got soda. I've got tissues. We're ready.
Since I can remember, Clem's always been there with me.
Why is this AJ speaking?
To be quiet. To be strong. To always aim for the head.
Okay, keep bringing that back.
To atone when I did something bad. to show mercy sometimes.
Sometimes.
I always
Only
listen to
sometimes.
Clem.
When it's
Always.
not funny, always show mercy.
I've been thinking more. I don't know if she's right every time.
I mean, she's definitely not, but also...
She told me to shoot her if she got bit. That doesn't feel right. We're doing a lot of bad things. To save our friends. To protect our home. And when Clem told me not to shoot Lily, and she killed James.
Yeah, thanks for reminding.
I got mad. So mad. I don't know what I feel anymore. I
Oh,
don't know if
boy.
Clem knows either.
That is incredibly bright, and I need it to not be that bright.
Remember all the rules.
I thought
And
after
first
we
one?
stopped last time as well, what if you told him to
Is
shoot
never
her
go alone.
and James stepped in the way and he shot?
What if James dies no matter what? Oh no. I think I am gonna play this again. Just to try and find all the collectibles. So I might try some of the other choices.
You could try doing a Violet gets captured and
Yeah.
Lewis is your friend run.
Yeah, that's the...
Because that's like, there's a substantial change if you can do that. There's a lot of the game that there's a different character for.
It feels like this has a little more choice than the other ones, and obviously that could just be an illusion.
Yeah.
But I'd like to play it and see if that's the case or not. Oh shit! You are exploding so loudly, and there goes our hat! Oh no.
What's that?
Don't cry, Clem! We gotta go save Chunky Baby!
Hang on, I'm coming.
Oh, it's bad here. Ah! Okay, you're really just throwing me in. I see. All right.
Hey Jay, you have to trust me. On the count
like-
of three,
it's like the
let go, and
Estonia.
I'll catch you. Promise.
Might be listening to more. Well, there's your problem. Sorry, Mike.
1, 2, 3.
I can't remember that one. I listened to one that were a boat crash recently. They were different boat crashes.
There are lots of boat
Plane crash
crashes.
or torpedoing.
Oh dang!
Yeah.
No, the Estonia was a Soviet boat, like a transport boat, and it kept making bad noises, and everyone just ignored it, and it essentially like capsized, but it fell on its side first and drowned everyone inside of it because no one could get out because it was on its side.
Okay, we've got to jump.
And because it was on its side, they couldn't deploy any of their regular, their regular safety
Half
rafts.
the lifeboats were underwater and the other
Yeah.
half were in the air.
Yeah. And then they had inflatable like life rafts, but they need to move.
Don't have time to
But
hesitate.
they couldn't
We need to jump
deploy them
now.
properly because by the time they'd get them filled up, they'd have blown away because
What do we do when we're
the Baltic
scared?
is windy as fuck.
Fuck off, fear. Attaboy.
Yeah, that's right. Tell Fear to fuck off. But there were like 1,000 some people on the boat, and only like 100 survived.
Jeez.
Baltic's cold. Oh Jesus! Oh, Clem! I can't do the shift and the other things at the same time. It's horrible. It's fine. I know what to hit now. I will have my finger on shift the entire time. Do not worry. I'm hitting forward, game. Let's go.
Yeah, I
Oh.
know that.
Yeah!
Get to the pier.
It's just weird having to go for shift when you're not ready for it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen regularly enough that I feel like I have to keep my hand on shift. Or near shift, or ready to hit shift.
feel like on console that'd be like a trigger, or on controller it'd be a trigger and a button, which is kind of fine. You do that very easily on a controller. And they just didn't really know how to translate that to a keyboard.
Not as easy. My god, Boat, you are so loud. I understand why, but please. Oh.
The only thing louder than zombies, Boat.
But what if Zombie Boat would be the loudest thing in the world?
Oh, that girl.
Oh goodness.
That's the noise that Russian boat were making, and they just ignored it.
So the people on the boat sent like a mechanic or something down to check out the sound, and he came back and he's like, nah, it's fine. And then they were like, well, go check it out again. So he left to go check again, and then he never came back.
I think I remember that.
And everyone was like, this is fine.
Kimberwolf is raiding with a party of 6. Kaysh and the gang welcome you.
Hi, friends! We're talking about boats exploding.
Bots are exploding, and we're talking about bots exploding.
Yeah, it's great. Kim, hello, welcome. Thank you for the raid. Welcome in, friends.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
That
How
sounds
was
fun.
it? Oh, let me. Where is? There it is. Nice. How was it? That's fair. I appreciate it. We appreciate the raids. And that's okay, TK and Kim, thank you for the contribution to the gummy hunt. Go make your dinner, do your thing. I'll skip some of my spiel, as I usually do, but if you need to run, I totally understand. We'll be here for a good long while. We just started. But we appreciate the raid. And like I said, if you gotta go do stuff, go do your things. But, hi, hello, my name is Kayshurrr, you can call me Kaysh. I got my friend FruitySpruce here with us. I'm pointing as if anyone can see you.
I'm right there. I'm just off camera.
You're just somewhere in the periphery where no one can see you. No.
Go far enough that way. You may have to cross an ocean, but you'll reach me eventually.
It's like, yeah, we're playing The Walking Dead. It's the very last episode of the last season. So hey, spoilers. Hey, spoiler warning. There's things happening. But it's good and wild and fun, and yeah, I will probably cry a lot, because I have every single episode so far. That's a thing.
The series has been really good.
Yeah, it has. But yeah, I mostly play horror and mystery games. And because of that, I offer content warnings for every single game that we play, because there tends to be some very heavy topics that we come across, and I want to make sure that everyone is making informed decisions about the kind of content that they are partaking in. So if you ever need that, !CW will pull up the content warnings. And if you're interested in checking out the game that we are playing, !Game link will pull up either a Steam link or some link to the video game, as well as all of the consoles that the game is available on. Yeah, and if you don't already, you should follow Fruity, because they're delightful and wonderful and play lots of cool, fun games. Yeah. But yeah, thank you, Kim, for the raid. Go enjoy your movie. You're probably already long gone. I'm so sorry, but that's okay. Hi, Bono. But yeah, it's wacky and wild. Like I said, it's the very last episode, so there are spoilers in case you were wanting to play the series, but it is very good. I would highly recommend. You can skip season 3. We don't care about season 3.
No one needs season 3.
No, season 3 is unimportant. But the other ones are very good. Would recommend.
Yeah.
Anyway, how's it going, Bono? How are you doing? Oh, game, come back. Let's go.
If you just want, so far you just want the cliff notes 1 and 4. I think the major ones you want to play.
Yes. Yes. Oh, did he just punch that man in? Oh. Hey, we got Marlon's bow back.
Come on.
1 and 4 have been the best. Oh.
Yeah, two's good.
Um, Goodbye, James. I'm doing pretty alright. I can't answer for Fruity, but you know.
I'm doing okay. I had a really good day, but then I lived 3. Having a nice time.
What?
I wouldn't if I were you.
I'm gonna shoot her.
Had your chance.
How is she still alive?
After school, I'd say we're even. Let's both just turn around and walk away. Shoot her, Clem. She stabbed James in the back. Don't waste your arrows. This is over.
Damn it!
Thanks. I'll need the ammo.
That bow doesn't work on a crossbow.
Yeah, you need bolts.
They'll die because of you.
You can't. That's not how this works.
The Delta was the first place I called home after years of wandering.
Sounds like a you
You're
issue.
wasting arrows. Nothing lasts, Clementine. Not friends, not love, not the place you call home. They'll all fall eventually. Never forget that, or they'll drag you down too.
Maybe you should just have better friends. Damn it! I wanted Clementine to fucking hit her!
You've been so good so far up to this point.
It's because I'm not shooting her.
Yeah. Let me do it, Clem.
Clem, I got this. At the very least, it gets the point across. Lily, we hate you. Never show your face again or I will stab you. Hold on a second. I need to pull up my sound controls again. I don't think that this would be copyright written, but I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah. It's bad.
Oh boy.
It like sounds like it could be copywritten.
Right? Oh my goodness. I am scared. we have a whole dang episode and we've resolved the boat?
Yeah. It died.
We did a boat murder. Go us.
Don't know why I'm anyone at all.
Yeah. That's worrying. Oh, goodness. I'm so sad about James.
Yeah, James was cool. Kinda needed to realize that zombies aren't people, but other than that...
I mean, he wasn't hurting anyone.
Yeah.
That was his whole thing. Wasn't hurting anybody, so I guess it was fine. Who's this? That's a zombie. Louis!
You made it!
Thanks, buddy. How are you
I'm
doing?
really sorry about your tongue, but at least you're still alive.
Good. I'm glad there's a hug involved in that.
I need to see you right now.
He
They need a hug.
Right.
Get the fuck
Oh! Gotta save the girlfriends. Oh my god.
Are you okay? Yeah, my ass is a little singed, but I'm good.
Are you bit?
Fuck. You.
Oh.
I was so afraid you. Me too. But we're okay. We're both okay.
Oh.
What happened to Minnie?
I don't know. I lost track after the explosion.
That's for the best.
Slim!
Yeah.
Who are... Oh, those are raiders. We should go.
Yeah, they're shooting a gun over there.
We should leave.
Just leave it to them.
Right? They've got this handled. Omar!
Oh,
A
thank
sim!
God. You guys made it.
They only use the axe. They'd have to fight like
More
a
walkers than
10th
I
as
can
many
count.
zombies. But if they're shooting the gun, we can just leave.
Stay cool.
Right.
We knew this would happen. We just have to get off this beach.
I'm assuming... Fuck.
Look! We got the cars out.
Goblin boy!
Okay, but where's 10?
Where is 10?
Come on, we're getting out of here.
Because 10 was on the boat.
Put him down.
Yeah.
Oh, I am stressed.
Clem, do something.
Okay. I got your friend. What? Weren't you using that on the zombies? Doesn't matter. Oh, there's Minnie.
They were bad at this.
Right?
I understand not using the gun on the zombies because you want to make less noise. But if your friend is stood next to you using a gun on zombies, you should probably use your gun.
That's what I'm saying. How are you able to swing that at all? You got shot in the shoulder. Well, that's not our problem, Violet. Okay, she's dead.
She looked really bad as well.
Yeah, she did.
God.
Also, Willie knows how to use a bow now.
Everyone run for the cart. I'll stay back and cover you.
My
I'll
goodness.
be right behind you. Second I
They
see
worked
an
out the
opening,
mechanics
I'll
of
make
those
a break
weird
for it.
bars that they built out of garbage.
Good job, kid. Oh, Omar, is your leg hurt? Aww, I didn't even have to choose that time.
She chose this option.
It's the only
AJ,
correct
go with him.
option.
No, I'm staying with you.
AJ, please.
Thanks, kiddo.
Oh, I love his little pouty face. Honestly. AJ's a cute
I love
kid.
everything about AJ.
It's
Like,
true.
all of his animations. It's so good.
They're very good.
The writing and the voice acting is so good.
Just put the kids back in the cage. It'll be fine.
Oh, Jesus.
Yikes! This isn't my fault! Oh my god, are you serious?
Now we
Oh,
got
no.
them.
Oh! Well, we gotta run. It's time for us to go.
You okay?
I could have sworn... Oh, my knife is missing. Okay, that's fine.
Does that mean we can only do the kick? If it's an action bear.
Oh no. Oh, there's 10!
10!
Oh! Okay, everything is fine. Yeah, it's not great here right now. Why did no one see this? Why did no one see this? 10's got a knife! I'm gonna take that. Thank you.
Good job, 10. I'll take it from here.
I'm so glad he's okay. I was so worried.
Yeah, when he didn't show up at all.
Yeah.
know that this series will kill a kid.
Right?
Just do it.
They'll do it with no hesitation, no warning. Thought kid was safe? Wrong! Why was it all lit up in there?
Clem, monsters. We need to move.
We'll have to squeeze
Really?
through there.
We don't know where it goes.
Well,
Yeah.
we do know
That's
there's walkers in the other
crazy.
direction.
But
Move it, dummy.
No, but we
Yeah,
don't
but-
know if there's an exit!
Yeah, we have no reason to believe that there'd be an exit. Like, it's
This
more
is-
likely there's no exit.
Right? This is a horrible choice. We have made a bad decision.
Yeah, even if we're like just trying to run
Be
past
safe.
a horde
Yeah,
of
come
zombies
on.
in the open, at least we're not trapped in. And we got space to maneuver around them.
It's so dark in
Right?
here.
This sucks.
Yeah!
This
Yes!
fucking sucks.
You are correct!
I'll figure something out.
Well, it's convenient that there's all this wood
It's
here.
too wet to burn.
Not bad plan, Clem. Oh no.
The water's moving fast.
Yeah, that's
Too
not an
dark to
option.
tell how far it even goes.
Put a stick in it!
Okay.
Just doing your
Some
move,
way
I
to
think.
Start a fire.
No. Starting a fire with the stick.
I mean, I guess that works too, but also, like, use it to... You can kind of see if you can reach the bottom. Hi, 10.
Clem, did you see Minnie out there? I didn't see her,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean she escaped.
I saw her on the beach.
God, face on him. Don't tell Tan that.
She was bitten.
I will
Ted.
make him happy.
So she'll go to the next place with Sophie.
Yeah.
They can be together. That's good.
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. It just felt better to, like, tell him that she's
Yeah.
not coming back. I'm glad she didn't go into detail. But, hey!
Flint. I need something to burn.
Just a little spark. Crystal?
Might look nice in our room. Just have to get home first.
Collectibles. Gotta love it. What's over here? Right. Okay. Hey, who wants to rip up their shirt for me?
It's so dark in here.
I'm working on it.
It doesn't feel safe. There's too much danger outside. I wish I had a gun.
Yes, same.
Be out of here soon.
Same on all accounts. Also, I thought I saw a thing over here. Thought I saw a toy. Yeah!
Another one.
Cauliflower!
Gotta get home before AJ can play with it.
Who is it, though? It's Calypso Cauliflower.
These are getting stranger. Hey!
All right. Hey, good.
Oh, I don't like
There's
this.
another tunnel over there.
It's too far.
Well, we just gotta find something to help us cross.
We could climb the top of the.
Clem, the walkers are getting closer.
There's that tree trunk. We could climb up the waterfall.
Don't worry. We'll be home before you know it.
I don't know that I want to jump
Jumping?
across.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And look, there's outside out there.
If we yanked that out of there, it would drift down the river and get caught in the rocks.
Or we could do that.
Like as a bridge.
I mean, this feels safer than jumping on the rocks.
It'd work if it's shallow enough that you can stand up in it. You can just go along the
We just need to go
the
across
side of the
one by
log.
one. And then we'll move the rocks out of the way.
Ah! Ah! No! Oh, fuck. Oh, no!
Jeez.
AJ, get back! Look at his eyes. AJ!
I don't want to kill James zombie. That wouldn't feel
zombie.
great.
This is what we're trying to teach AJ.
Right?
It was James, now it's just zombie.
Yeah. Oh god, 10 please.
Seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
If you light a zombie on fire, you just have a burning zombie that you have to deal with now. It's like you'll kill him eventually, but in the immediate, no, it's made everything worse.
Unstabbable at the moment. Oh god, I'm gonna fall down the river, aren't I? Oh no! Sorry. I do love that they just flail. Oh, thank god. Hi, zombie.
James would be happy to have his zombie just hang out in a cave, having a zombie party.
Right, I guess that's another reason why I didn't necessarily want to kill him, because, like, James wanted to be a zombie. He just wanted to be left in peace, and, like, I guess... Hey, it's bad in here. It's almost like we shouldn't have come into this cave. Wait, I know this trick. We have to see which way the flame is pointing. And go that way.
Oh.
I know how to save us!
Alright, which way do we go?
The way I got genuinely excited about that.
Do you see a light down any of these tunnels? AJ, still with me?
He's feeling some feels right now. That's okay.
AJ, please. We have to keep moving.
Not like, from the sounds of it, they've not really like got attached to any group before. This is probably the first time he's had to deal with a friend coming back as a zombie.
Absolutely.
And his eyes were empty.
Yeah.
There's nothing after we die.
Yeah.
Nothing but empty eyes.
I don't... No,
AJ,
I can't lie to him.
He was your friend, and I know this is terrible.
Please don't say you're sorry.
Okay.
Oh.
Why did you make me make my friend go away? Everything is just wrong. Like something spilled on the floor and you just can't get it back.
James's death is not on you. I made the call, and Lily is the one who stabbed him.
And me. It's on me too.
Quiet!
James shouldn't have been there, AJ.
Don't yell at him.
None of this was supposed to happen.
What? I can't hold all of that in my head.
It's okay to be confused.
You
AJ.
say don't be soft, but everything that you do just messes up my head. Be strong. Be brave. If something wants to hurt us, shoot it right in the head.
AJ.
When we were talking with Abel, you stabbed him and stopped him from becoming a monster. You made killing look so easy. And you burned him with the cigarette.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done
you
that.
banged his head real
Yeah,
hard on that desk.
Yeah, I shouldn't
but
have
that
done
one
that.
was funny, AJ.
You killed that guy when we were sneaking on the boat. You didn't have to, but you did. What made him different from Lily?
AJ, please. That's enough.
I'm sorry. I'm just scared something will take you away. Aren't you scared of that too? Having to leave the world behind? And me?
Listen, kiddo. Everyone is scared of dying. Of what happens after. Especially if it's nothing.
I don't want people I care about to leave, Clem. I have to kill anyone that tries to take them away. I do. I believed you when you called me a murderer about Marlon. I don't think that murder means the same thing as it did when you were little. In a world that's gone now.
That's not incorrect.
I think that murder now is just protecting the people around you. Murder is a thing that makes us safe.
Still feel like there should be a distinction.
Right. Maybe words do change.
And say I'm right.
How about we keep
I
the
know you want to be big
don't
for everyone,
shoot
but
someone who's not a
you're
threat
just a
anymore
kid.
rule, but we also institute a don't stand in front
sometimes you're scared
of someone
just
who's not who we think
like
isn't a
any
threat with your
other
back
kid.
turned rule.
I like these
This'll all
rules.
help. You said all the policemen and firefighters died. I'm gonna be a new one.
The okay
Oh
part.
no,
Even if I
AJ,
don't get it just
that's not what we
right.
wanted.
Yeah. Hey, bud.
Because all it means is killing bad people who hurt other people.
No.
And I'm good at that.
No. Hey.
Like, I think I could be the best at killing bad people.
AJ, that's not the future I want for you. I love you too much, and I see you slipping away, getting more violent, more angry, more lost.
You shouldn't be afraid of that. I
No.
won't let it happen.
No. But it is happening.
I need you to trust me, Clem. That I can
AJ,
tell the
you're
good people
5.
and the bad people apart. That I know when to use my gun. And that you'll let me decide for my own.
I do not like this sudden turn from AJ. This is horrifying.
I hate this. I hate this.
Yeah.
Cause he's just gonna get mad if I tell him he's not ready. But also, I'd be lying if I told him he's earned it.
Yeah.
Shit.
I don't want to encourage this because this is horrible.
Yeah.
I'd lean on the side of he's not ready.
No, 100%. That's where I am with it. I just had to stop and like. Oh.
I don't think you're ready, AJ. You're too little.
You don't trust me?
That's
can't
not
trust
what it
you
is.
to make those calls.
I mean, it
You
is.
can't?
It's,
Or you won't?
can't. Can't.
Or won't? Which one?
Can't.
I've raised you since you were born, AJ. And it looks like I have a long way to go.
Oh.
Okay.
When we're not stuck in a cave with a bunch of zombies coming after us, we can sit down and we can have a talk about this.
Yeah, that's the way out.
Maybe hash some things out. But now is not the time.
Come on.
Oh.
Everyone in The Walking Dead just needs like a sit down and just a nice relax and maybe a therapist. And they just never get that opportunity. They always just get zombies instead.
Yeah. Hey, I bet at least one of the zombies we've come across has been a therapist. Consider.
It's true. Don't know what I'm complaining about.
No, but yeah, everyone just needs a break. Oh. Hasn't got them anywhere because they haven't been able to do any of that. AJ seeks our approval above all else. Okay, that's kind of good to know. Oh no, that's not so good.
Coast is clear.
I mean, it needed
We
to
just
happen.
don't want you to be a cop.
Right.
If the shore is that way, then the school is probably that way.
Oh. I mean, therapists can't necessarily practice on themselves. They need other therapists.
Maybe somewhere there's a group of just therapists who are actually doing great.
Sim was the third.
They each support each other.
Yeah.
The day after AJ killed Marlon. You already know Violet and I voted for you.
Wait,
to
who was the
stay.
third?
Sim was the third vote.
Oh,
Wait,
shit!
that means Omar voted us out? And Ruby?
Yeah.
Jeez.
I thought Ruby was our third.
Yeah, me too.
What made you think of that?
Sim said you knew how to survive. He could just tell the school would be safer with you there.
Well, he's not
I
wrong.
voted for you because I liked you. But his reason, it was better.
That's okay, Ted. We
I
like
just-
you too.
I just thought you should know. Sim was right.
Oh.
We were more scared than we let on when you met us.
That's really nice of you to say, Ten. Thank you.
That's okay. Now that we're out of danger and going back home, it just made me think of it.
I like a sim.
If Marlon was still in charge, we'd be taken away to wherever. Or dead.
Yeah.
Instead, we fought back. Because you showed us how. We weren't safe with Marlon. Even in his safe zone. We were just
Yeah,
hiding.
the should be. As far as we know, nothing's happened to the school.
Yeah, school was burned a little bit in the initial raid, but it seemed
That was before we
fine
even got there. Oh, do you mean when the bomb went off and stuff?
when the bomb was going off, when Mitch got
Okay, well,
killed.
That's fine.
Violet! Girlfriend!
Violet!
Hey. Yeah, school is still
Made it.
together enough.
You're all alive.
Something tells me that at least one of us could have died back there. Looking at you, 10.
I couldn't believe you were really dead. I had to try and find you.
Hey, should we
You
get
did
your
find
hand
me.
cleaned up?
Should probably do that.
We should
Did
fix
everyone
that
else
before
escape?
it gets
Yeah, they're
terribly
okay.
infected.
They took the cart and headed back to the school.
Nice.
We're safe, Clem. All we gotta do now is find our way home.
I'm here for it.
Any
I'm here for the
idea which
gay
way that
hand
is?
holding.
I know an old bridge near here. If we cross it, we won't be too far from the school.
I don't trust Bridge.
Oh, no.
Something tells me Bridge is not safe.
We've encountered Bridge before.
Oh, Trip. You were a lot. Can't say I miss him, but I can't say I'm glad he's gone. He was confusing.
They all were.
Yeah, they were. Season 3 was...
Season 3, it was confusing.
It was the filler episode?
How's your
Kind
hand?
of.
It'll be fine once it's
If you
scabbed over.
skipped Season 3,
The worst
you'd
is when it
wonder
itches.
why Clem had...
It feels like your finger's still there.
finger
and
off.
it itches, but there's nothing to scratch.
And that's everything that you've missed, right?
To be fair,
I guess...
I
At
also
least I can
wonder
still
why
flip people
Clem
off.
is missing her
Silver
finger, and I
lining,
was
I
there
guess.
for Season 3.
You know, closed it in the door.
Well,
I
we were
think
looking
there
for
might
you
be
guys,
some
and
confusion as to
I
how
thought you might be.
she and
trying to
AJ got
get-
where they are, but I feel like there's
But
enough
that's-
context clues that it's fine.
And I feel like...
I was trying to figure out.
I don't
where
know,
you guys were
The
And I
big major
realized
event
how
that
goddamn
he like
stupid
refers to is
I
the
was
bit with the ban,
about
which we
minute
never
Mhm.
saw. We just
For a whole
we know it was a
fucking
bad time.
I was
Yeah.
so wrapped up in
But that
losing
was in
her and
between
Sophie,
series.
I pushed away
Mhm.
everyone who tried to care about
I think more just like getting
Marlon, Brody,
understanding like who
Lewis,
the group
even
was.
you and AJ. I tried my damnedest not to care about either of
Okay.
you.
I know where you're coming from.
Like, you wouldn't necessarily
After
know
losing so
how
many people,
bad the New Frontier
sometimes
was,
it's
but again,
easier
that
to keep
doesn't
everyone at
matter.
arm's
It
length.
doesn't matter.
And you wonder why you fight so hard to stay
They give you
alive.
enough of a recap at the very beginning of this
I
season
don't want
that
it anymore.
you can just skip 3 and you're fine.
Yeah, and it's just not worth playing
No.
through.
Jesus, everything's so different now. Me,
Not
us,
at all.
school.
Although you do get to see Jesus.
I remember how
We
Marlon
do love
described
Jesus
it,
here.
and what we were gonna turn Erickson into. It's not the
I guess
way
if you
we
buy the
pictured
seasons
it.
individually, you don't need to buy season 3.
How did
If
you
you buy the
picture it?
definitive edition, which has all 4 seasons in it, and I think it even has like the DLCs,
I guess I
then you
couldn't.
you
I just
can
listened to
play
what
through
Marlon
it.
said, how
but you
it would
probably
be a
shouldn't.
home, a real one, but I couldn't.
It's fun
wrap
if
my
you
mind around it.
get a friend and you stream it and you just roast the whole game.
My family would
The
be
only
Otherwise,
recommended way.
wouldn't recommend it.
What
Yeah,
about you?
yeah.
Where'd you live?
I lived in a house with my mom and dad. Fence around it.
They're having
big
this very sweet
backyard.
moment. We're just over here
What
shitting
was
on
your
season
favorite part of
3.
the house?
It deserves it.
It does.
I had a treehouse in the backyard.
Also, obviously, the
I used
treehouse
to
is the
take my
favorite.
walkie-talkie up there and play for hours. I'd pretend it was a ship and I was the pirate captain, or it was an igloo and I was a hunter, or a castle and I was a princess.
Really? Like with frilly dresses and a tiara?
Yeah, but also a sword, a warrior princess.
Yeah, obviously.
And the
If
treehouse
hand
kept
holding
me
is
alive
against
when all
TOS,
this
it can
started.
eat my
That's what I heard.
ass. I need my,
You know,
my sweet
Erickson
lesbian
can
soul
still
hands.
be the home Marlon promised. As soon as we get back, we'll start rebuilding.
It'll be a lot of work, but you're right. It is worth it.
Then it's a consenting situation, and it's fine.
Hell, we could even put in a treehouse.
We've already
Treehouse
built
at
Bell Tower.
Erickson's, let's go!
Okay, we'll build a bell tower house.
Let's go!
After all that's happened, it's still hard to imagine. I mean, we fought for it, defended it. It should feel more like home than ever, but it doesn't. You know what the problem is? That stupid fucking name, Erickson.
We'll just rename it then.
You want to rename it?
Do we get
Yeah,
to pick?
Fuck that guy. We should name it something cool. Threatening.
The rotting shithole.
Something that makes assholes go,
These are all.
I should stay away.
You should.
But not like Blood Murder Knife House. You name
I
it.
kind of
What's
like
your
Blood
idea?
Murder Knife House.
Yeah, call it Blood Murder Knife House.
Texas. We're calling it Texas.
You can't just name
Why?
it Texas.
Fine.
Clem School for the Unhinged.
Texas too.
Not
I want
violent.
to help rebuild our school.
You will attend. We all
No, it
will.
is safe now.
We can start as soon as we get back.
Yeah, it's Texas too now. I regret
get
letting
on to
Violet
Texas
name
too.
it.
Yeah. Climb Skull for the Unhinged would have been about.
Honestly. Wayward apocalypse children. Clem's home for wayward apocalypse children.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's just like how everything should be viewed.
Okay, just
Here
take your
now.
time and keep
It's
moving
not-
forward.
Nothing bad can ever happen here, but hey, it's at least more secure than before. Okay, this is...
We do still
This
have
is-
the outstanding Lily situation. Like, we could see her coming back for revenge just because she's a bastard.
Because she's Lily and is probably certifiably insane.
Yeah.
No, she's just an entitled asshole like her father.
But still.
Yeah, no, she's definitely still an issue. I mean, she was saying that her group was probably dead because of what we've done, so, you know, here's hoping that that actually comes true.
Yeah.
This is horrible. Why are we crossing this bridge? Violet, we're gonna take a long way home. We're not doing this.
How did we ever get to and from places?
That's far.
We should not try and jump that.
No.
I'd be able to jump it.
No!
It's not that far.
Violet!
Yeah,
Violet,
I think we can.
one of us is
Just gotta be
sticks.
careful not to land. It's hard.
Oh fuck, Minnie's here.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh. No, 10. Listen. Your sister's kind of a bitch.
I found you. Oh, Ten. My sweet little brother. Come with me.
You're dying.
Yes, I am.
I am
I'm
very glad that I
finally
told
going
him.
someplace better.
Because this
want you
could
to
have gone very bad. I mean,
It's
still has the...
Everyone gets to be a person again.
No,
We're gonna go be
10.
with Mom. And Dad. And Sophie.
Ten, snap out of it. She wants to kill you.
I know, but
Jesus. Fuck. Okay, we have to jump across the bridge now.
Speak to him. Any of you.
Yeah.
This is a problem. This is a problem. Here we were, being worried about
Please,
Lily.
Minnie, stop. He needs to be with his family. Don't do this. Don't worry, Ten. She can try to stop me. But I am not going anywhere without you. The night will be over soon.
Ah!
Get down!
Oh, I hate this. Oh, I hate this. Oh, I hate this.
I'll help the boys across the gap. Watch out for the walkers.
Okay, but can I also shoot Minnie? Fuck. Everything is wiggly! Whoa!
Found her.
Okay. So Minnie's shooting at me. By the time I read the message, I was dead. This is not great.
I'll help the boys across the gap.
Also, the aim is
Watch
like
out for the walkers.
super not great.
Horrible.
It like keeps pulling in different directions. Fuck! Okay.
I think
Well, this is...
it's the 5th shot that hits you, and the other ones that hit the cover.
Okay. I just don't want the zombies to get too close.
I'll help
Yeah.
the boys across the gap.
There's a lot
Watch
happening.
out for the walkers.
This is
Well,
fine.
it's gonna yeet the children over the hole. It's fine.
Go, Violet, go! I let go!
And that was the 4th shot.
Down!
This is fine. I'll shoot
This
3
is
zombies
fine.
and then I'll duck.
Yeah.
We'll just watch the scene over and over again.
I'll help the boys across the gap. Watch out for the walkers.
This is fine. It's the zombies on the sides that are like closer than the others. Okay.
This isn't really working, and I think that's part of the scene.
Fuck!
Minnie, come on.
Down!
because it's clearly not working.
You think they'd go for her if she's shooting, even if she's so covered in blood that they don't recognize her as? Oh.
You would think. You would think.
Yeah, this is a problem.
Game just wants us to suffer, and that's not fair, but you know, please get under cover.
As if she's basically free to just wander through the horde, so there's not like letting them get closer just means she's also shooting from closer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, am I still able to? Okay.
Ah, okay.
I understand now. Oh!
I got AJ across, but 10 won't budge.
10, please.
Stop her.
Okay, but she's like right here. Fuck!
She's right here.
She is right here. No! Ah, I clicked out. Hold on. I've like clicked a bunch of other windows.
Technical difficulties, fine.
No, my bow!
Not his family.
Oh, good. I'm glad she's out of bullets.
You were just something in my way.
Oof. There are zombies behind us. Ouch. Fuck.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh! Oh! It's too wiggly.
Taking 10 home. I'm going.
Please stop shooting her in the arms. Just shoot her in
Right?
the head.
Right?
Please.
No, 10, please.
Get across. I'll get 10.
Violet, please. I can't walk.
Nice to hit you, go over.
Oh no.
Yes.
Tennessee, move your fucking ass now.
I hate this. 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 What are you doing?
Go! You'll die if you don't.
No. No. AJ. 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 Chunky baby. Sweet boy. Okay. Oh. No, Violet! No!
I'm glad AJ didn't shoot 10 though.
I did that.
She died for you, stupid head! Wake up! Now! Or we'll die too!
I have a lot of feelings. Also glad that AJ didn't shoot 10, but also...
I'll climb, then help you down.
At least she died like a... She died a hero.
Yeah. Fuck.
Clem, look out!
There's too many.
Can we just, acknowledge that scene was cool as fuck?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, kid.
That's okay. It's fine. I...
Girlfriend got eaten.
Yeah, it's not the first time. No one lasts. It's tragic, but fuck. I just gotta get Chunky Baby out of here.
Yeah.
Clementine, please. The fact that she is doing this with her busted leg is impressive. No!
It's not wrong.
I hate everything.
Clem.
Yeah.
Chop my leg off. Chop it off. Chop it off right now. Look, my leg's bleeding enough. Chop it off. We don't need it.
2 swings. Prove you the chosen one. That were a boy. It's scooped up in the bit where the
Yup.
boot were broke.
Yup. Cut it off. Cut it off. Cut it off! Listen!
I got bit. Come on. We can't stay here.
Cut it off. Cut it off. You've got an axe, so cut off your leg.
Keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Keep moving.
Oh no. You can't. You cannot.
Moving.
That leg's doing nothing for you right now. Get rid of it.
Right?
It's weighing you down.
Right? Tie it off above the knee, cut it off below the knee. You got this. Of course Clem got bit. Or she might get bit.
Everything was horrible.
Awful. Horrible. Terrible. Miserable. I need every other child that we have come into contact with to be okay. I need everyone else at Erickson's to be safe. Clem, you're not looking great.
Hey. I love you. Don't ever forget that.
I love you too, Clem.
Keep moving forward.
His little shuffle, though.
Look! James's barn. It's empty now. We'll be safe in there.
Run, now!
dodge that. This is not great. Where did they all come from?
Keeps happening.
This is
jumping. To be fair, they're probably from miles away. Just heard the bar explode, and we're moving towards it.
Yeah,
that does make sense.
Oh no. I am hitting Q. I was hitting Q as fast as I could.
Come on, Clem. We can make it.
Oh. Oh, it's definitely probably the boat, but also it's too many.
Yeah, the dude just
That's
get a billion of them out of nowhere.
Right? Oh, butts. Come on. I'm trying! Shit, brick house chunky baby coming through.
So strong.
Use the axe. Or the pitchfork.
You can use the axe to chop your leg.
I think we've waited a little too long for that. I'm playing as AJ now. This is horrible. Get out there! Get out there! Oh boy, that is not gonna hold.
The wall's not gonna hold. No battery's gonna hold.
We need to get those pin doors closed before they break through.
Oh, oh fuck, Clem!
Cover me.
Okay. Excuse me? Oh no. Ah, ah, ah. No, get your fingies out of there. Get your fienders out of there. Eh. This is terrible. AJ is very quick though. So dang fast.
Got that kid energy. Could run for days.
Zooming everywhere. I'm glad. Oh, I'm glad he didn't try to catch that.
That'd be a bad way to die in the apocalypse.
Right? No, no, no. Eh. Okay, okay. This is not great. It's definitely not going fantastic. Clem, you're not looking well.
It's going up a gray.
Just a
Oh,
bit.
jeez.
I am too
done.
slow!
Can't reach the head. He has to stun him first.
Right? Well, I'm glad that we've been practicing that move this entire season. Right in the eyeball. Good job.
Can't let them get inside.
No, Clem, I do understand. I'm trying, okay? Q, 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 Q.
Combo.
Q, 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 Q. Oh, this is horrible. Horrible. Oh, hey, buddy, take a moment. Breathe.
Good job, AJ. You did it. Now what? You need to find a way out of here.
We can climb up there. The monsters can't reach us up there.
You can climb up there.
Easy climb. Come on. Please. Try.
AJ.
I think she's in climbing shape, AJ.
You can't give up. You can't give up. I need you. I need you.
Oh, come on, kid. Don't be upset. This is just what happens sometimes.
But it wasn't supposed to happen to you.
My little goofball.
It's Alvin Jr.
You'll always be goofball to me. Hey, look at me. AJ, please. You're such a cutie. How did I get so lucky?
No!
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Please. Don't be silly right now. Not right now. Please.
I just wanted to see you smile. One last time.
Don't say that. Please. Don't say that.
I can't see the screen. My eyes are too
I need to
teary.
make sure you remember.
Remember what?
The rules. What's number 1?
Never go alone. So I can't leave. Not without you.
AJ,
It's your rule.
you won't be alone. Not for long. Get back to the school.
I don't know how.
Sure you do. One of the first things I ever taught you. You need to make sure they can't smell you, so... Grab that axe. There's a fresh, juicy walker just waiting to be gutted.
Oh, that
Use
Clem!
that axe to open it up. Cover yourself in walker
Don't
guts.
call him juicy.
You know how to do it, Clem. I know you do.
I hate this. I hate this so much. I think this is only chapter 2, so there should be another one after this. Because they've all been in 3 so far. Not happy though.
Next rule. What do we do when the monsters come?
Clem,
AJ,
shoot them in the head.
got any more ammo?
There isn't any more.
Okay then. Fuck. And the last rule.
I want to stay with you. I know what'll happen. And I don't care. I don't want to go. I just want to sit next to you and stay. Like that monster couple from the train station. Even if someone kills us later, we'll just sit for a really long time. Please. Let me stay.
Oh, sorry, kid. But no. I have a job for you. I need you to get back to your room. I need you to sleep in your bed and have friends and grow tall. Taller than I ever was, I hope. I need you to live, AJ. For me. That's your job now.
Okay, Clem. That's my job.
Last rule.
No.
What do we do if I get bit? Are you gonna make me say it? Fine. Just leave.
I can't make him do it. I can't make him do it.
I know. But now that we're here, my heart is saying something else.
I can't let you turn into a monster.
You have to.
No.
So how's everyone doing? Load screen, please. I need you to.
Cool.
I'm glad he did it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell him to do it. I couldn't make him do it.
Yeah.
AJ, I'm coming.
Oh shit, are we gonna see what happened at the... Oh no.
No.
We got one last time. Oh, horse. If we get another Lee and Clem scene, I will cry even more. I will just be a mess for the rest of the day. Oh. Oh. Oh shit. Okay. Let's go. Sir, your gun is empty.
I'm looking for a boy. He's about 3 years old. His name's Alvin Jr.
He's gonna die anyway.
Yeah.
He wants to be that way. He can be that way.
Please.
Oh!
Please. Please kill me.
Where are the children?
It hurts. Oh my god, it hurts so bad. Kill me.
Just because he asked for it, and oh god, that would be a horrible way to go.
Yeah, that's fair.
Take some of this shit. Another one?
No, no! I'm not!
You stupid asshole.
I'm not messing around. Tell me where the kids are.
Alright, alright.
No, Jesus
That
isn't
way.
here.
There's a nursery. But I'm not letting one of you savages take a kid.
Oh! I
What?
tried to hit shift, because that's what I've been used to doing. Oh, are you gonna make me kill this man again?
Please kill me.
Ugh.
Where are the children?
Okay. This.
Oh my god, it hurts so bad.
Yeah, I know,
So
buddy.
you can die in a flashback. Let's go. I
No
always
shit.
remember-
Another
Which
one?
one of the Prince of Persia? I just
Oh,
always remember,
no.
like, he's like, the framing of the game is he's telling a story, and when you die, he's like, oh no, that can't be right.
Yeah.
I didn't die there, did I? I'm still alive, actually. I'm telling you this story.
I'm not messing
I
around.
do vaguely
Tell me
remember
where the
that.
kids are.
My friend and I
Alright,
played through all the Prince of Persia games
way.
back in high
There's a
school.
nursery.
That's
letting one of
that's
you
one reason why
savages take a
Emmy and I
kid.
go blue all the time, because Farah, I think, asks what the prince's like favorite color is, and he's like, I don't know, blue, and he gets like really aggressive about it for no reason. Well, she's like, well, what's your favorite food? And he's like, I don't have one. She's like, oh, well, I like pomegranates. He goes, I hate pomegranates. You're just like, bruh. Quality games. Nobody's played them before.
Just like to imagine being told a story by someone and like, oh, and then I tried to jump onto the platform and I missed, but I rewound time so I could try again. And then I tried to jump on the platform and I missed again. So I fell to my death and died. Wait, I didn't actually die, did I?
Beautiful. Perfect story. It's like a 6-year-old telling you a story. I think I need to replay the Prince of Persia games sometime soon.
Sorry.
Hey.
Sorry.
We have the technology, right?
We
Don't worry.
do. We do. Oh, you're gonna shoot me. I clicked! I swear to God, if it puts me back at Burnt Man. Good. Okay. Sorry, I was busy thinking about the prince getting mad at Farah for liking pomegranates.
That's fair. Sometimes.
Oh, goodness.
Sorry. Sorry. So sorry.
Wait, are there children here? No,
Don't
why?
worry. We're leaving soon.
You're...
I've just
Clem, there's no one
a few
here.
Things.
Is she practicing apologizing to age, eh?
100%. Oh, shit. Okay, but we have proved in a previous scene that she was gonna kill us.
AJ.
Yeah.
Get stuffed in a locker, buddy? Probably should have grabbed the bottle or something. Oh, baby!
AJ.
Oh,
Oh, jeez.
Clem.
hey, buddy. Oh. Oh, that cry is right in our ear. Oh, baby.
Let's get you out of here, okay?
Can't. I can only go forward. It's a little shaking. Oh. It's a good wet wipe.
God is new. Like the one even brains on there just a minute ago.
Okay, now, where to?
Oh no.
Can't go back to Richmond. This whole area is a war zone. Gotta...
Go?
Oh.
Yeah, we have to go, AJ. This place, we can't stay here. It's not safe. But it's okay. We're survivors. And the first rule of survival is... never go alone.
Never go alone. Clem?
Yeah, that's right. AJ? I've really missed you. So much. I know where we'll go. We'll go find ourselves a new home. Together. And I'll never leave you again.
Can't make promises like that, Clem. Can't do it. Beep. Just give him a little smooch on the forehead, please. Game, I just got done crying. Can't keep doing this to me. Oh, chunky baby.
Yeah.
They can't though. don't have a... Okay, I was like, I don't have a marker!
Kesh, are you fishing right now?
Gotcha.
I am. But it's fine, because it's basically like knife fishing.
Basically. Knife on a stick.
Who's a good girl? It's you, Rosie.
Look at little butt
Goodest girl in
wiggles!
the world.
Facts, though! I'm glad he made it back. Don't make me keep doing this. These fish are too fast!
I need a slow fish.
Like that one.
Yeah.
Not the boom boom! Hey, Jay. I missed.
I give up.
You just missed
Alright,
once!
I'm gonna go put the spear away. Stay
Whatever,
here
we
and
got
keep
two
watch.
big fishies.
Yeah, we did.
Rosie's gonna eat those fish.
Yeah, she is.
We're gonna put the spear away, we're gonna come back, and there's just gonna be fish bones everywhere.
The dog has to be very well trained for you to leave food near them and them not just eat it. And honestly, it's just not fair on the dog.
Right. Right. Get bottles.
Nothing good. V plus M. Violet plus Minnie. She used to be their friend.
Yeah, and then she turned
How
into
can
kind
someone
of a
just make that
bitch.
go away?
She went
That's a pretty good.
kind of wrong and
Better than the ground.
became queen of the zombies.
This place is
Not zombie queen.
cursed. Oh, that's scary. And mean. I think this place is good.
Who died and made you queen of the zombies?
Skull!
Huh.
Whose skull is this?
We'll go on then if it's so good.
It's getting kind of cold. I'll bring some sticks and stuff next time.
Tub.
Looks like a bad place to sleep.
I don't know, throw some blankets in there? Could be good.
Sam is very pro sleeping in the bathtub if there's no available beds. And the only other option is the floor.
I think I have to agree with Sam.
Yeah.
I've done it a fair share of times.
I should tell Willie this is here in case we need more bombs.
Yeah,
Like, he was staying at a friend's house with like 1 million people. And they were filming or something. And when he came home, he was like, I've discovered something. I've done science. You sleep in the bath rather than on the floor.
it's true. Tubs are nice.
It's so good.
Uh-oh. Rosie? Yeah!
Hey there. I know.
Hi, Ten.
Tin?
How are you doing, buddy?
Hey, Jay.
Looking a little rough.
Hey. Everyone thought you died. Because, you know, you're you.
No, I'm okay.
Good.
Aww.
I'm sorry about Violet. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you or Clem. I'm sorry. I don't know why I mess up all the time.
I thought a lot about it, and I felt a lot of ways about it. Then I decided to forgive you.
Violet died saving.
I was
10.
worried you would
It was
be
like a
angry.
choice. 10 realized
I
that.
was scared.
Sorry, AJ
because,
realized 10
you know,
was
You're you.
keeping Violet from getting away, and he was.
It's probably
It was gonna
because
shoot
of
her,
all the trauma that's
but because of choices we'd previously made, he
Clem told
decided
me.
not to.
Yeah.
We just have to find a doctor to fix
You were gonna shoot 10, sorry.
I don't think we'll ever find a doctor. I think they're all gone. So I'm just going to mess up all the time?
No.
Probably forever.
No!
Oh, hey. I found this way down the river. Sorry it's so wet.
It's
figured
wet
you
and
would want
smells
I
bad.
do.
You should wear it.
It's gonna disintegrate one
Nah,
day.
my hair's too big on my head.
Oh.
It stretches though.
AJ?
Why did it take you so long to come back?
At first, I was ashamed. So I followed the river for a long time. Just thinking about Minnie and...
Yeah?
I found their bodies. I saw what the walkers did to them.
That's
They
sad
were
and gross.
just bones and stuff. Meat.
Did you bury them?
Yeah, under some rocks.
Good.
Do you know what naive means?
No, Clem never taught me that one.
Do you remember that drawing I made for you the night Brody died? With the house, and the walkers, and my sisters and me?
I remember. You said you sometimes drew your sisters like the walkers left them instead. We put it on the wall in our room. You drew me in. And Clem.
Naive means you think a certain way because you don't know the way it really is. When I saw Minnie's body for real, how the walkers left her, I realized those drawings were stupid.
No.
That house will never be real. I'll never meet my sisters again. The only thing real is when we're alive.
I mean, yes, but
I don't think I really know anything about the world, AJ.
that's okay.
I think you do. Can you teach me to be like you instead? The way I think just gets people in trouble.
Okay. Everything I know, I'll tell you about it. The first rule is never go alone.
Yes, tell him the rules. He better remember that.
Hey, hon. It's getting late. Just coming to check on you. Dinner soon.
Hey, Ruby, I've got 10 with me.
Tennessee? Thank God.
Hey, Ruby.
We gotta get you home. I swear.
I'm so hungry.
I bet. You coming with? Whoa. You found it? How did you...
Tin did. You guys go. I'll catch up. I'll be okay. Let's go home?
Little butt
Let's go
wiggles.
home.
Don't forget. Okay, I'm glad he grabbed the bucket because I was like, I didn't catch those for nothing. You didn't make me fish for no reason. Is that it? Okay. You tonight. Just a little bit for right now. I don't know what's happening. And this song is 100% copyrighted. Has to.
leaf got enough fish?
Get that leaf out of there. Hey, there's Omar. Oh. You want me to play now? Okay.
Mama.
She just lives in this box now. That's a big fucking rabbit. Holy shit.
Call it Bono. It's just sleeping.
Good for them. Sorry. Oh shit! Okay. Okay. So it hasn't been that long. Goblin boy.
At least
down,
Goblin Boy made it.
Right. Is that Lewis up there? Looks like Lewis.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Hi, buddy. I think that's everyone? Good dog.
They should still posthumously change the name to Clementine's
2?
Home for Trouble
Oh.
Youth. No, not Texas 2. That were a bad idea.
That's what got Violet killed. The universe said that cannot be allowed. Clementine's Home for Troubled Children would be great though.
What you doing there, goofball?
No, don't do this to me. No!
Whoa. Easy there.
You're out of bed. You're walking.
For real?
And you have wood arm legs. Crutches.
What arm legs?
I found your hat. Well, Tin found it and gave it back to me. It was in the river and it's all wet now.
Shit.
It's definitely seen better days. You know what? You keep it if you want it.
I'll put it in our room.
I have a surprise for you, too. Come with me. I want to show you something.
How the fuck did she get out of there? Also, I'm glad that he cut her below the knee. He listened. AJ listened. There's a lot going on in my brain right now.
So we were
what do you
like,
think?
how did Clem manage to pull, like 6-year-old Clem managed to pull
for me?
fully grown Lee
Yep.
out of the
Well,
street
help me
in a
put it
horde of
together.
zombies and into the garage?
Come on, let me push you.
How did 10, 6 years old, manage to carry Clem up up to the second floor of the bar
Right though?
and then get her out of there?
Jesus.
I think they kind of just
This
can't
is fun.
just can't do it.
I
That's
love it.
fair.
Can't pull the trigger on Clem.
Honestly-
I'll take that.
It's good to see you smile.
Well, I wonder if you had told AJ to kill you, like before and during the situation, if he would have.
Maybe.
You're the best, Clem.
I think she survives no matter what. Genuinely, but also, like, I'd be curious.
Cold.
Come on,
one for next
let's go
time.
eat.
Yeah.
We're coming!
Seemed like you were a bit late for chopping the leg off, but hey, we'll take this.
I'm assuming that she looked as bad as she did
Aww.
because of the huge gash in her leg. Also,
Yeah.
that was sweet. Because it did
That's
seem like the infection, like,
true.
spread real fast by comparison.
Yeah, it could have just been horrible blood loss.
Yeah. And the constant walking on a wounded leg and pushing herself and, you know.
Yeah, it did all happen in like minutes rather than. Yeah, you're right.
Please don't waste food. She did go a little more like yellow-green than gray. Oh,
Lois is gonna have to find new ways to be annoying.
Just tapping. He just taps on everything now. I thought she was gonna vom for a second. It's like, Ruby, you good?
Damn.
Hey, Jade.
What?
Willie's laugh.
Seconds, please.
Already? You even taste that?
Idiot.
Hey, Tin, want to practice? I can show you how to use the gun.
Okay.
So that's where you put the bullets. When you shoot one bullet, it pushes another one up into the chamber.
Please take your finger off the trigger when you're passing the gun to someone.
Thank
You know
you.
you're supposed to shoot them in the head.
Yeah, I know that much.
Okay, good. Just making sure.
Well, I'm getting tired, kiddo. Mind talking with me before I turn in?
Sure.
We have to show Ted how to hold a gun. This is not it. Just cradle it like a baby. Look at you go, Clem.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
It's okay. I stare at it too. If it was just you and me alone out there, and I was like this, I don't know if I'd make it 2 weeks. I'm gonna need these to go anywhere. And if we ever had to run,
Just practice running in the courtyard.
it wouldn't be pretty.
Got a peg leg.
Make her a new
It's
foot.
okay. I'll make you a new foot.
Oh yeah?
There must be a foot-making book somewhere. I'll ask Will.
Okay. Find me the foot book.
Not the foot book.
All this.
Oh, jeez.
It's worth it. All those times you would ask me if we'd find a home. All I could ever tell you was, we'll see. And your face would fall every single time.
It's better than saying yes and lying to me.
And that's what I told myself. But
Literally, that is what I have told myself this entire game.
I never had a plan. I never knew where we were going. I never knew anything. I just fought and fought and fought and hoped you didn't notice. Hoped we'd find something before you did. Did I do a good job?
Oh, Clementine.
You tried really hard. That's all that matters, right?
It's part of it.
A big part.
When we were in the barn, you didn't listen to me. And if you had, I'd be dead. I shouldn't have said you weren't ready back in the cave.
Well, he wasn't.
You showed me how wrong I was.
This speech was horrifying.
Strong for the both of us.
This was a different situation.
You made it so I can. So, thank you.
We support AJ
everything.
making good decisions that
You're
might not
welcome
line up with
for
ours. We
everything.
don't support AJ becoming a cop. Oh boy.
I'm really glad AJ didn't shoot 10.
Same.
It's like Violet dying were horrible, but at least it was zombies and not like us
No.
directly. Yeah,
No,
that would
for
have been
sure.
worse.
This was, I think, what happened with Violet was like the preferable option. It was definitely, I would have been inconsolable had AJ actually shot 10.
Yeah,
Whereas, like, it sucks.
fully transitioned into cop AJ.
Right? Like, it sucks and it's horrible that the Violet didn't make it out, but it's definitely, like, that's kind of what you expect from these situations. That's knowing
Yeah.
that somebody can get caught by a zombie.
We'd showed the game that she were our favorite. It was obviously gonna murder her.
Mhm.
We were ready for this.
Oh, sorry. This is a cool way to show credits. It is. I wish that some of these were a little more, not the cool-ass, a little more legible, but it's still, it's neat. Like it. This was really good.
Yeah, I think that was the best one since the first season.
And I don't know, this was wonderful. And I'm so glad that things, like, worked out in the end. Like, it would have been fine if it hadn't, because it's kind of what you expect. But, like, I'm really glad that everyone's okay. Well,
You're gonna finish the series forever, like... I do like just letting it end on a happy note.
right? At least, like, give it some hope.
Yeah.
It's like, who
Okay,
knows
in you go.
what's gonna happen after this to them in the grand scheme of things, but, like, we've seen it turn out okay.
This is about the most like hopeful situation we've had like a group get to, right?
I wonder who you used
Absolutely.
Nice and remote that don't have any active enemies right now. Like normally the people that get you, not the zombies, and there's no people after us right now.
And I do think that, like,
And it's been like
oh,
how long's it
sorry.
been since the
I miss you.
Sorry, no.
I'm gonna
No.
pretend this is you still watching out for us.
oh.
Probably shouldn't keep that, and it's gross.
I think you
But I
meant that.
appreciate the sentiment.
I hope so, at least.
I think that, like, even with, like, the issues that they were having with Delta, like, Lily's group, I don't think they would come back at this point. Like,
It'd be a while at least before Lily like had enough people to come back.
I fully expect Lily would come back. I don't know that the rest of her group would be down for that, considering everything that happened. I think that they would just not trust in Lily's judgment anymore.
That's fine.
So cool.
But yeah, it's like, even whatever comes, it's like,
wonder if
I
it
feel
has
like these
magic
kids
powers.
could do well to take care of themselves.
It
There's
can
going
go,
to be,
obviously still go horribly wrong. But
obviously.
Nah.
But they've done well enough for themselves. It's just
Never gonna die, huh? That's lucky.
We're gonna look at everything. Not
He really is a
stupid.
good artist.
Not a
This
stupid
deserves to
picture.
be on the wall.
Good picture.
Yeah, I did that. Good job, AJ.
Good job, AJ.
Sweet boy. Can we not have Jace's mask?
This
here,
is a good one.
please?
I
Go
get to
bury
protect
it in the
us.
yard or something. AJ, you're a dear boy. AJ, you had antlers.
That looks like it tastes bad.
Eat it.
I won't lick it. I won't.
Clementine would have.
Why
Back in the
did
day.
Clem collect so many skulls?
Powerful question.
Because they're cool. You wanna play some music? What are you doing?
It's like Lewis in a box.
Oh. Dog. The thumb.
They're dead. Buy flowers. I'll pick some more.
No place hat yet.
Hey there, Alvin Jr. You ready to rap?
Please.
Beat Nick. You're so cool, Disco Broccoli. Like, the coolest.
Okay.
Even if I could eat you, I wouldn't do it. You're too cool. Clem never explained what is disco. Oh, I'm just getting myself hungry.
I'm going to do this until the dialogue is exhausted.
He's gonna eat disco.
Oh my
broccoli.
god, why is it getting closer?
Can you see through those? They look like glasses, but like bad. I bet you've seen a lot of things, huh?
Are we done?
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Toy airplanes on fire off the shoulder of McCurl Ranch. I watched canned beans glitter in the dark near that one train station with a dead
This is a
couple
Blade Runner
gunshot
reference and I
that
fucking
killed
love
me.
it.
All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in Omar's stew.
Why is that making me cry? Oh!
You didn't think disco broccoli could make you cry? And here we are.
I wasn't prepared for that? Sorry, that's like my legit my all-time favorite monologue from like anything ever. Like I want to get like Tears in the Rain tattooed on my body, okay? Like the fact that they've thrown I can't. It's time to go. We have to look at the wind chime.
I can't reach.
Why did Disco Broccoli make
That's
me
unfair.
cry? That was rude, Disco Broccoli.
Right when you least expected it.
Honestly! Can I... No, we're done with the disco broccoli. Alright. Jesus Christ. I'm all done. I have to chug some water. Thank you, Easy. Holy shit.
I'm coming.
Oh,
Thank you, Gil.
honestly. I couldn't think of a better ending for this, honestly.
Yeah, I was really worried because I thought like the company had fallen apart like when they were making the ending, so I was worried it was just gonna be like abrupt and bad.
This was
I'm glad
perfect.
they landed it.
This was perfect. This
Yeah,
is... And again, like, at first, I thought that maybe, like, we thought it was so good because of how bad Season 3 was, but, like, genuinely, this was so good. Oops, sorry, Lewis. He was traumatized after his capture. Whoopsies. Good! Fuck her!
Come on.
Aww. Oh. At least he was relieved just before he died.
Yeah.
We got all of them. Sorry, can we just look at how
Yeah?
horrible this is?
No. We should maybe not have kept that.
That should have gone away.
Yeah.
What Clem taught me, first thing you do when you enter a new place is to find the easiest way out. Always aim for the head when you have to apologize. Be as honest as you can, even if it's really hard. Try not to burp or fart at dinner, but sometimes you can if you think it's funny. Sometimes it's okay to take other people's stuff. That's not... No, I think we specifically said not to take other people's stuff.
Were they dead people?
Might have been dead people.
People who weren't there?
I wonder if this was the train station.
Yeah.
To which it's like they were dead. They weren't using it.
We need to fully get this zombies aren't people thing across.
Also, I just saw that Johnny Young Bosch was the voice of James, which is hilarious. I've met him. Partied with him one time. It was great.
Nice.
People try to steal from you. It's okay to try and kill them.
Were you wearing the mask when you were? Is that how you recognized it?
No. Jeez. Sleeping in a bed is way better than sleeping on the ground. Trust me. I was wrong to kill Marlon because he wasn't a threat when I shot him. You have to atone something. It's hard, but people will forgive you. When you're scared, just tell fear to fuck off. Monsters won't be here forever. Sometimes torturing people is okay, I guess! I guess I did teach him that. Oopsies. Doctors can help with your trauma, but I think they're all dead. So, no such thing as a monster self. Grandma is dying, stop watching cartoons. Was 100% not Clem. But also, good advice. Even people who love you your whole life might not trust you with the big things. That can make you freeze up. Aww. Oh, I see. Okay. was confused as to what any of this meant for a minute, but I understand now.
I wish I'd have done these at the end of the episodes rather than...
Right?
Yeah, because then it'd have been fresh in your mind what this picture of a group of people means.
Right? just gotta think about it. It's fine. Looks like he dies no matter what.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I do like that you can romance either of them or say no to either of them.
Yeah. If you're gonna make a game about choices and put like a romantic angle in, a romantic act, let us say no.
Right though? Lily can die.
Oh jeez. He would have killed her.
He would have killed her. But I imagine James would have been very upset about that.
Yeah.
I imagine James still ends up dead?
Yeah. Oh god, he can shoot 10.
Yeah.
I kind of liked, I was hoping at some point it were going to do like a choice where what you'd picked earlier is like influence what decision AJ made, and you couldn't like directly pick it. You just, if you taught him bad, he'd do a bad thing.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the fact that we can like not have it be horrible. And we can kind of retroactively like fix some of it. But I do wish that like some of those things would have stuck a little more. It does look like Clem survives no matter what, which is nice to know.
Yeah.
Shit.
Zombie 10 can come back.
We could kill 10 because he's a zombie. We can let Zombie 10 go. We can be friends with 10, or we can tell 10 to fuck off. Damn. It's cool that there's so many, like, different outcomes. That does kind of save me the trouble of having to go through another playthrough, which I still probably will do anyway at some point. But
yeah. It's not... It's about the choices, but it's not actually about, like, the branching paths that come from the choices. It's about making choices.
I think it would be interesting.
It's fine, we understand this.
To...
The Lewis route would be interesting.
Yeah. I just want to see, like, how not necessarily, like, the dynamic changes, but, like, I want to see some of the different dialogue and, like, just kind of experience it with romancing Lewis. Or not.
Yeah.
But just hanging out with Lewis instead of Violet.
Or just being friends with Lewis if you choose, which is fine.
Right? We love having the option. That was so dang good, though.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know we've said it a lot today and over the duration of this playthrough and stuff, but I'm very glad that it went okay. That everything ended up being okay.
Yeah.
Because it could have gone really bad. It could have been really bad in every respect.
It's not something we went into expecting it to go particularly well.
Right.
Some horrible things happen, but like the group's kind of intact. I don't know.
Yeah.
It went better than I thought it would.
Oh, 100%. I was expecting like one or two of them to survive, not a majority of the group. like Brody and Marlon 100% were gonna have to die. And then I think, I mean, it looked like Violet or Violet, Lewis, or 10 were gonna get got.
Which is true. One of those has to die.
Yeah. But like, I think we've managed to like, I don't know. It's just very nice to see like a majority of the group still make it. Yeah. I think I would have been okay with Clementine dying as well. Like I would have been sad about it, but it would have been like, that's okay. Like, she's survived a really long time in the apocalypse, but I'm really glad that she is still there, if for no other reason than for AJ's sake. Poor boy.
She's got wood arm legs now.
She's got wood arm legs. Perfect.
AJ's perfect. Every AJ was amazing. Every
Honestly.
scene with AJ. Everything AJ did.
AJ was perfect.
I liked all of them. I liked the series. It was great.
No, this was really good, and I'm glad that like we have both finally gotten to experience the very end of the series now at this point.
I think some of it is it plays on nostalgia over the first two series really well in the fourth one.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Even just
so
like
you didn't
on
play
its...
1 and 2 back in the day might not be as impactful, but I think it was really good.
I still think like on its own it wouldn't hit the same way, but I think it would still hit fairly hard. Just because like I don't know, it's hard to not get attached to children in a bad situation.
Also,
you
like,
want to root them on.
Normally the children are kind of trash, so we always hated them.
Right? They did really good with writing some good kids this time.
Yeah. AJ and 10, fire.
Holy shit.
Kid.
Like even with AJ, it's like he's super young and he is learning. He's with Clementine. You know that he's gonna get it. He's gonna be fine. But like it's really cool to see a kid that was a little more sheltered, i.e. 10, and see him grow and develop and like learn from everything that was going on and not necessarily just be like, oh, I'm a useless child all of the time. Sarah, I'm looking at you, Sarah.
Yeah, he was. he was useless.
Yeah, but it's like unlike the other children and or Ben Paul, it's like he knew where his faults were. And again, it made sense why he was making some of the choices that he made. Like he typically didn't make terribly stupid choices until like his friend ran out and was in danger, and he thought that maybe he could, if he just gave up, he would.
Part of it was he didn't expect them to be as cruel as they were.
Yeah.
Because he didn't know that like people were capable of that kind of cruelty.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fair.
And then like the stuff with...
It's like... He was really depressed and kind of wanted to die at the end there with his sister.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
It was horrible. It was tragic. But it's like, again, like all of those situations, like it makes sense why he responded the way he did. And I think that's like what we were talking about for like season 1 and 2, where it's like even if there's characters that you don't necessarily like or you think are like bad, you understand their motivations.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't present in season 3, but it's very nice to see it come back in season 4, especially with as precious as all the characters were. And they were all precious! I don't think I genuinely hated a single one of them, except for Lily, but that's because she's the worst.
Yeah, Lily, the villain who you're supposed to hit.
Right? Oh, jeez. Alright. Well, this was great.
It was. This was really good. Thanks for having me on for this ride.
Yes! Thank you for being here and doing it with us. This was wonderful and awesome, and we should definitely find another series to do this with sometime soon.
I'm down.
Hella. Perfect. Alright. For now, though, we should find someone to raid. I only have 4 folks on right now. We've got Dot doing some retro, Cauliflump's doing some Warhammer, Black Girl Gamer's doing some Fortnite, and Tin Sarah doing some Minecraft, excuse me while I burp.
I think Sarah's going for the dragon.
Oh dang! Oh dang!
That's on an all-day Mario marathon.
Oh jeez. Do we want Minecraft or Mario? I lean towards Minecraft because it's Sarah, but
yeah. I'd say Sarah, but
no, we can do it.
I love Sarah.
We'll set up the raid.
Let's see if they can get the dragon.
Awesome. But yeah, like I said, this has been wonderful and fantastic and perfect. I'm glad that this ended as well as it did. I've had a lot of fun playing it with you, Fruity. And thanks everyone for being here. Being awesome.
It's good games. It's a really good series. It's a pretty good property just in general.
right?
I can take or leave the TV series, but
yeah, I mean, as somebody, I did not like the TV series at all. I hated it. But I
you
absolutely
hated the part, like the good part at the beginning. It gets way worse.
That's not great.
In my
That's not a shining endorsement. No, I absolutely hated The Walking Dead. I tried and I couldn't get into it, but I like absolutely adored the Telltale stuff, and so I'm glad that they made it good. But yeah, we're gonna go right over to Tinsera. Our raid messages are above if you're gonna come hang out with us. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday. It's Monday. We're gonna do some Bioshock Infinite. Continue that through the week. And I'm gonna figure out what we're gonna do next weekend. I don't know. I might not stream Saturday or Sunday. One of the days. But we'll see. Anyway, take care of your dang selves. I love you. Have a good one. Goodbye. Oh, it rated. It's rated. I took too long.